Hey guys, what's up? I am trying again with another podcast style. I've been trying this since 2012. I remember my old crew back in New England. We had a friend who worked at a hotel, and we would get a conference room, and we would just talk about dogs. And it's funny, it never really translated because it's not to really keep you entertained. I mean, I think we were entertaining enough, but it's more about teaching the human something that they can't see or they don't know, or something from the dog's perspective, the dog's eye point of view. And that's the hardest part of this whole thing, is that it's an in-person thing. Dog training is and always will be an in-person thing. And as we advance down the road of technology, AI, electronics, veterinary behaviorists, the new sciences, they're not sciences, it's just weird. You have to convince people to unlearn what they have learned. That's a tough thing, because let's just talk about puppies. All right, we got a lot of people with puppies on Patreon now. So all you puppy people, I do not envy you. You have a hard job. Most people, and I mean 99.99999% of the people, get a puppy for the wrong reason. And the industry and the marketing has gone so far that it almost sounds like blasphemy to say anything that goes against the popular opinion or the industry, right? So what do I mean by that? So years and years and years ago, I worked at this pet store in Newton, Mass. It was the first time that I worked at a pet store that sold puppies. Most of the time I worked at places that had exotics. I worked at the Museum of Science and the Live Animal Center, and I would work at some farms with farm animals. And it's different. It's a very different kind of thing. But when I went to this pet store, they would buy puppies from someone who was selling them very cheap, and some of them were very sick, and some of them had genetic problems. But it didn't matter. When people came in, the sicker it was, the more likely they were to buy it, because they wanted to save it. But they didn't know a damn thing about what they were doing. So I was trying to talk people out of it. And we were told, get the puppy in their hands. We had a puppy viewing room. Get the puppy in their hands. Then we got financing. Then we had a contract that protected the pet store rather than the owner, because they knew that more often than not the dogs would get sick. Some of them would get parvo. And parvo, for all of you that don't know, is lethal to puppies. An older dog may survive it, but it's lethal. It goes after the stomach lining, and they shit blood, and they throw. Oh, it's gross. They just basically microwave from the inside out and die. But that makes everybody go, oh, and they want to save, right? So when these people would come in, they were not looking for a puppy most of the time. If someone was looking for a puppy, they would go to a breeder, right? But they would come in and they would get emotional. And of course, the puppy's either shy or licking their face or, avoidant. But whatever it was, they couldn't see past their emotions. They had their emotional glasses, their goggles on, and they couldn't see. You're too vulnerable to buy right then, too. I mean, we got financing. Like, you can just go to the pound, or back down there we had or in New England we had Star Market. There used to be people giving away puppies, but somehow that's shady. And then going to a pet store that is buying dogs from questionable sources, and they're sick and they're genetically bad. We had to deal with a lot of stuff because when you worked at the pet store, there was a room downstairs where you had to care for these sick and injured puppies. Not injured, but like genetically. Like we had an old English sheepdog that couldn't use its back end, and the store doesn't want to put them down because they're going to lose money, so they're going to try to find a discount. And the bigger the dog got, the bigger the discount, so people would kind of wait it out. But the dog was doing 6 months in a glass cube in a pet store with wood shavings underneath it. So not optimum. So when you get a puppy, you may get it because it's cute. You may get it because you're lonely. You may get it because you want to be happy or you want to keep your dog happy. This was a big thing. People getting dogs for another dog. That's the worst idea. It's just the worst idea. My point is this. No one's consulting, and there are very few people left, anyone who's going to not market to you, who's going to tell you, look, this is a mistake from Jump Street. Okay. Fair enough. Everybody's marketing now, so it's funny. It's not funny, haha. It's funny, odd. Like there was a pet store in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. It's gone now, and they were selling puppies, and they always had sick dogs. And there was a guy that worked there, a very cool guy from the South, and he said, "Hey, Chris, just letting you know I'm going to quit." And I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "You know what? Selling puppies is the closest thing you can get to human trafficking without actually human trafficking. And that makes everybody feel bad more. So what they want to do is go out and save a puppy. Then they get the feelings, the emotions of, oh, look how cute it is. Of course it's cute. You know why they're cute? So you don't eat them. So you don't kill them because they're a pain in the ass." So now people get puppies and they go home, and depending on your lifestyle, I'll say lifestyle because everybody's kind of soft now, and I don't want to like piss people off, but if you get pissed off, it's on you. If you're someone who is getting a puppy because you want your kids to love you, that's a bad reason to get a puppy, because the puppy, wherever you get it from, is going into basically a new family, for lack of a better word. We used to say pack, now no one wants to say that. So you're bringing this puppy into a place where kids are losing their damn mind and they're running around and everybody's happy. But what people don't understand is that that puppy is doing everything it would with its litter mates, which is learning hierarchy through play. What can they get away with? Now, when you start giving a puppy everything because they're cute, because you love it, they don't understand your perspective. So what they do is they start thinking, I get everything for free. I get everything for free. And then they get toys, they get treats, they get beds, they get groomed. Now, and for all the people like, you don't groom your dog? No, really, I honest to God, I have a Malinois, a band dog, and a pit bull. No, I don't groom my dog. I don't take my dogs to grooming. That's not something that is necessary for me. I mean, if you have a poodle, you should learn to groom it yourself, because that way you're being a parent to the dog. You clip the nails, you brush the teeth, you trim the fur, you express the anal glands. All that is responsibility of the dog owner as far as I'm concerned. So all the things that come up that cost money now, like grooming, are paid for so someone else can do the work for you, because you don't want to do the work, or you don't know how, or you don't want to learn, or whatever it is, right? But the problem with that is you're missing an enormous opportunity to parent your dog, to teach it to sit still. And it's not even teaching the dog or the puppy to sit still, it's teaching it not to move. So what people do when they go to the groomer is they'll give the dog to the groomer or the puppy to the groomer, and then they'll come back and, how is the puppy? And it happens with vets, it happens with daycare, it happens with groomers. Oh, they were fantastic today. Because if the dog was really, really, really bad with grooming, they'd tell you not to come back. Or the vet, if you groom at the vet, they'll tell you the dog's got to be sedated. So let's go back. How did a dog that was a puppy in your care get to the point where it has to be sedated or it has to be muzzled at the groomer? Now, I want you pet parents to think about your kids. When your kids go to get a haircut, do they have to be muzzled because they're trying to unalive the barber or the hairstylist? No, because you wouldn't put up with that. Well, people now are getting puppies and dogs because of pity, for all the wrong reasons, right? So, Chris, what are the right reasons? Because it's okay to have a dog as a companion, but you want to teach the dog that it's in a pack, that it's in a family. And if you're going to be the mama or the daddy, you're probably going to parent the way you were parented. So if you're permissive, if you were spoiled, you're probably going to spoil the dog. And then when the dog gets older, you're probably going to get resentful of the dog because you gave it everything, and now you're like, I gave you everything, and you're not listening to me. What's really hard for people to understand is that moment that you take a puppy away from its litter mates and its mom, you're breaking a natural cycle. It's a very precious cycle where the siblings and the mom, and sometimes the dad, older dogs, would teach it what not to do first. But when you're thinking of yourself and you want to pamper and it makes you happy, I get it, dude, I get it, but it makes you happy to give to this dog because you're playing some kind of surrogate parent and you pity this thing and you think it's helpless, but it's going to grow into an opportunistic predator, whether you like it or not. So that first year of working with a puppy shouldn't just be because it's cute or because you pity it or because you want to show it off, or it's an ego on a leash, or it's a fashion statement, or it's, remember, that dog isn't aware of what your social media accounts, the dog doesn't even know what social media is. But people want to show their highlight reel because if you put a puppy out there on your social media, you're gonna feel great because everybody's gonna validate you. And we have people now where puppies are doing really dumb shit that they're gonna do when they're older, and everybody's like, oh, Hart, he ate the trash, he got in the trash, oh, I love that, my dog did that too, it's so hard to break. I actually had one of my students send me a picture. Well, the student told me about this small bichon frise who is like 4 or 5 years old and just started to bite people. Bit the kids, bit the parents, bites the groomer. The dog's out of control. And when my friend visited the house, the dog tried to bite my friend. So when my student visited the house where this dog was, the dog tried to bite my student. So, it's like 15 pounds of spoiled brat. And that's what the reason that's happening is because this puppy was not given boundaries when it was young, the right way, with corrections. But you got to learn how to correct, right? And when they don't get corrected and they get everything they want, they get entitled. They get spoiled. So in their language, you're taking that puppy and you're putting it on the leadership pedestal. You're giving things to it. Here's your food, here's your treat. And your corrections don't instill any healthy doubt in the dog. No, or, oh my God, the one where people put their fingers up like a Teletubby and go, uh-oh, that's not a correction. So let's take it back.
to when the mother would correct them, just for weaning, to wean them. She wouldn't, uh-oh. The difference between that, uh-oh, and that growl is a correction and a squeaky toy. So when trainers tell you to correct with your voice, maybe, but what happens is the dog learns something completely different than a correction. It learns, you're full of shit, and that didn't mean anything to me. And actually, if it's a good noise, it can actually make the dog want to do the bad behavior again. So it's very, very difficult to get people to invest in that first year with a puppy, because now we almost accept the problems with dogs. A dog takes off, get an e-collar. Dog takes off, get an underground containment system. Dog takes off, get a runner, so it can exercise. Instead of teaching the dog that's not allowed. The puppy, you take it, let it run, let it run, let it run, let it run. I would never, over 35 years now, as a behaviorist and a dog trainer, I would never take a puppy into my house and just go, there you go, buddy, do whatever you want. It's like taking any animal into your house and saying, do whatever you want. So your dog or your puppy is going to learn when it's little that it doesn't have clear rules and limits. There's suggestions, and ultimately it gets everything at once. That's a recipe for two things: an aggressive dog or a fearful dog. Because a dog that's or a puppy that's an opportunist and is a little bit more dominant, a little bit more assertive, it's going to take and take and take, and then it's going to demand. I have a video of a dog in a house telling people what to do. You'll shit. If you ever saw it, you will shit. It's incredible that this dog is using corrections to tell people what not to do. And he just leaves them alone when they're doing what he wants. And that started as a puppy. You got a year, man, and that puppy's brain is being hardwired as you're living with it. Those neural pathways are wiring, and it's very hard and very unfair when people go out and they get like a prong collar, a choke collar, e-collar, and they start correcting, because now they're mad at the puppy because it won't listen to them, when through that first year and sometimes longer, that's exactly what you taught your puppy to do: ignore you, not listen to you, not respect you. So now they have these behavior issues that they go online, and the purely positive people are trying to train a counter-conditioned behavior. So if your dog's aggressive, throw food on the ground so it stops being aggressive. Of course it stops being aggressive. Of course it stops being aggressive. And people believe this stuff because they see what they want to see. So let me give you an example. If someone comes in to my house and they're brandishing a gun, or they're beating me up, or they're hitting me with a baseball bat, and they're like, where's the money? And I don't tell them, they're going to get more angry. But if I start throwing $100 bills on the ground and they pick up the $100 bills, they're not hitting me anymore. But when they want some more money, they're going to come back and do that behavior again of beating me up or threatening me, because that's the behavior that you're actually paying off. Now, if you can't understand that, you should probably get a kitten. There's a huge, huge, huge importance in that first year. And there's other things that happen too. People tend to be permissive for a long, long time and put dogs in over their head. Like they'll take, there's trainers out there now that are, they're putting e-collars on 7, 8, 9 week old puppies. You can make that puppy do stuff. But while that brain is wiring its neural pathways and growing, what are you doing to it? What is it learning? So they can give you science that tells you you'll get results. Of course you're going to put an electric collar on an 8-week-old puppy. You're going to get results. Now remember this, and this is hard to understand. Before I would use an e-collar with a dog, and the only time I use an e-collar is when I'm dealing with a hearing impaired dog. And so why do I do that? I teach the dog with food on hand signals, and then I use the e-collar on a very low setting. It depends on the dog and it depends on the drive. Because when a dog is like chasing something, your level of correction has to go up. But the dog, if the hearing impaired dog is off the leash, it can't see your hand signals if it's running away from you. So what the first thing I teach when we're going to use the e-collar, well, first of all, how do I put the e-collar on? I put it on every day for like 2 weeks and I never use it. Take it off, put it on, take it off, because I don't want the juju to come from the collar. I want it to come from the lesson. So then I'll wait in the house and the dog won't be looking at me, and I'll give it a little touch with the stem, and the dog will look up, and then the dog will look around like, what happened? You're trying to create searching, because I can't, the moment I get up and walk, I'm moving, and the dog will see that movement. I want the dog to learn, when I'm not there, look for me when you feel this. So then the dog will look at me, and then I'll give it a hand signal to come, and it will come over, and I'll give it food or affection or whatever. I can break it down further, but that should make sense, give you some idea. So basically the stim isn't because you're doing something wrong. The stim is to get your attention to look for me, interrupt what you're doing, chasing a cat, fucking around with deer or whatever, just not being present. And then search to look for you, boom, come back. That's all that is. I'm going to take the first year of that dog's life and teach it that, because that's going to be the way of this dog's life for the rest of its life. But that's no difference. There's no difference there between a dog that can hear and a dog that can't. So when you start teaching your puppy things you don't want it to do when it's an adult, and you allow them, what's allowed will continue. I want you to think about that. So what's allowed will continue. You get a puppy and it starts ripping up your couch. And you go, okay, I'm going to get a toy and redirect it onto this toy. From the dog's perspective, how did the puppy get the toy? Oh, I go over and I hit the dispenser, which is the leg of this couch, and then they're going to get a squeaky toy for me. This is all modern scientific stuff that is designed to make you buy it, but your dog isn't buying the same lesson, especially as a puppy. So when you start going with popularity or your emotions, right? Because that's kind of where this all goes, is people who are super accomplished at stuff in their life, doctors, lawyers, judges, it doesn't matter. Whatever your poison is, you grow up and you're an adult and you know things and you're pretty sure about, you can see what reality is and you understand, what to do with your dog and stuff like that. But when you're really working with a dog, especially with someone who really understands canine behavior and really understands that first year of life is so important, you feel like an idiot. You feel like an idiot. If you have a puppy and you work with me, the first thing I'm going to do is tell you to stop doing stuff. But it's hard because, like there's a new puppy person on Patreon now, and they have a Great Dane. And so I'm trying to work with them, and I'm saying, don't let that thing run around and learn how to push you over. Pick it up Pick this dog up every day. Oh, it's heavy. Yeah, it's 8 weeks. It weighs like 25, 30 pounds. Pick it up every day. Every day. Don't beat it. Don't hurt it, but pick it up. Because no one picks up an adult Great Dane. So when they have to go to the vet, they freak out. Teach that dog that it's little. Teach that dog that it's small. I had a student named Becky who was, if the lady was 100 pounds, with rocks in her pockets, carrying a bowling ball if she was 100 pounds. And she got a really cool Great Dane named Zeus, who's a little bit fearful. But I used to tell her, pick this thing up all the time. And he would lean on her, and I'd say, bump him off you. Don't let him lean on you. She said, well, and she's just being nice. She's a sweet lady. And I said, this thing's going to weigh almost 200 pounds when it's grown. It's going to lean on you then. Don't teach the lessons that are going to make it easier for the dog to disobey. Meaning, when that dog weighs upwards of 150 pounds and it starts leaning on you and this little petite woman starts pushing back, that dog's going to realize she's got no ass in her pants. She's tiny. I can push her around. And if you don't think they learn that, you're out of your mind. So it doesn't make sense to people to get a handle on a puppy so they can enjoy it for the rest of its life. Spend that first year investing in understanding the dog, not doing techniques or using tools or getting toys for it. Your puppy doesn't need toys. Your puppy doesn't need a dog bed. Your puppy doesn't need to go to daycare. Your puppy doesn't need to go to the dog park. These are all things that I would tell you to stop doing, because all those things are valuable things away from you. And if you're constantly bringing the dog or allowing the dog, the puppy, to go to these things that are more valuable than you, and then when you're done with that, you start correcting the brakes off the dog for, that's like telling your dog to sit and then frying it with an electric collar for sitting. To the dog, there's no difference. You taught the dog through allowances and reward and affection to do these things that are going to piss you off, and more, because the dog's going to extrapolate from there as they get older. The puppy you have now is either going to be the greatest dog you ever had or the biggest pain in your ass when it gets older. So it's hard to get people to be immune to that cute. It's very hard. But I will tell you this. The same thing happens if I get an adult dog that comes into my house. If I get an adult dog, I just start the same way. These are the rules of my house. I'm not like, are you okay, buddy? Did you have a bad life? If it had a bad life and it's with you, its bad life is over now. Why did the dog have a bad life? Nobody loved it. No. Nobody trained it. Nobody understood it. And then people became frustrated with it and brought it to the shelter or sold it or corrected it. The other thing too is your dog knows who you are, because you may go online or you meet someone at work or you're at the human resources department or you're a social justice warrior and whatever, and you give this image to the human world. When you get home and you're at your worst, that dog knows exactly who you are. It knows your resume because it's always watching for an opportunity. But I would take a puppy or a dog into my house, and the first thing I start with is the crate. And then the dog needs you. I need you to open the door. Yeah. I need you to feed me. Yeah. Now you're setting up things that the dog can earn to see you in a way that it has to go through you to get what it wants, instead of just taking the dog out in the world and letting it have what it wants because you facilitated it. I mean, even thinking about pulling on the leash. I don't teach puppies not to pull on the leash because they won't understand what's going on. I teach puppies not to touch shit that they shouldn't touch. So they want to go grab one of your flowers. And how you do that is important. And then what you do after is important. Then they want to bite your pants. Can't do that. And just be neutral. So the dog is starting to say, wait a minute, this is just like my mom did. My mom didn't interact with us. I mean, I'm anthropomorphizing this like crazy for you, but mom didn't interact with us unless we were doing something wrong. That's what makes you the mama. The mama says no. The grandmama says, what do you need, sugar booger? So this dog grows up thinking, wow, that's an imprint that you put on the dog. Wow, that's mama. And if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. But the problem is now that mamas are all happy and mamas aren't mamas. Mamas are crazy, mixed up people who get attention from emotions with dogs. Or, you know, we live in a world now where people aren't even sure about their own reality. And that's going to bleed over onto the dog. So what happens is, as human civilization and technology and the social construct gets higher and higher and higher and further along down the road, our beliefs change so much that we're in a virtual world, not an actual world. And we leave these dogs behind when they become confused. Or we try to drag them into our reality by medications, electronics, methods, surgeries. And it's just not, it's not helpful. There's people who are vets that are spaying and neutering dogs at 6 weeks old. You know, one of my mentors had pygmy goats, and she had twin goats, and she named them after candy bars. There was Tic Tac and Snickers, I think. And they were brothers, twin brothers. And one of them she neutered pretty close to right away, and the other one she didn't neuter at all. The one she didn't neuter looks like the most beautiful goat you've ever seen in your life. Just adorable, big horns, everything. The other one is shy. It's got little nubs for horns. It's not anywhere. It's like half the size. So we're sacrificing growth, normal growth. Now imagine that if it's a dog, you got all that stunting and all that confusion because the hormones aren't going the right way. And it's like giving your 8-year-old kid a hysterectomy and expecting her to grow up right. But then you pamper them and you give them everything they want. And then, you know, you get mad at them and you don't know how to teach them, and you just want to tell them what to stop doing. And it's what happens with people in communication, and this is anybody, the more you're trying to communicate and it's not working, the more frustrated you're going to get. Because the answer is that the dog has its own language, and we've been doing this for 36,000 years. I just saw a thing on Facebook about a cave lion cub that was found in the ice, perfectly preserved, 26,000 years ago. I want you to get your head around this. Dogs had already been domesticated 10,000 years prior to that, to when that cave lion got frozen to death in the Ice Age. We humans were working with dogs and knew how to work with them. They weren't doing the same things we're doing. They weren't beating them because they wouldn't work then. They had to learn that movement is dialogue, and they had to learn how to set up scenarios so that the dog would learn. Instead of just yes, 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 no, no, no. That's very confusing. So whenever I talk to people with puppies, they're kind of under this illusion, this kind of spell of puppiness. And when you tell them to stop doing, the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is stop doing all the puppy things you're doing. Because this is where we're programming the computer for the rest of its life. Either way. But people don't want to give up their feelings. They I'm going to do what I want with my puppy. Good for you. God bless. I'm not for you then. And it's very hard because then they'll come back to you a year or two later and go, I should have listened to you. And I go, yeah, now it's going to be, if we can get it, it's going to be really hard. And don't be fooled by the people who use muzzles and e-collars. See, the thing is, if you're muzzling the dog, you're afraid of the dog. Now, people would go, justifiably so, well, I don't want to get bitten. Sure. But the moment I muzzle something, I'm afraid of it because I don't understand it. I'm worried about me. The moment I have someone put an e-collar on the dog and I couldn't put it on, I'm afraid of the dog. And the dog's seeing all this. Movement is dialogue. It is parenthood, but it's parenthood to an adopted child that comes from a different culture and, in fact, a different species. But when we put ourselves in front of the dog because we have an ego or we get embarrassed or we want to twist the truth, I cannot tell you, I have no tolerance for truth twisting. And people will do that with puppies. They cheat. They'll justify. They'll manipulate. They'll tell you something is what it isn't to the dog. They'll try to save themselves. They'll try to tell you things like, well, at least I'm doing this. No, this is not an at least thing. This is a life. This is a life. We have to do not more than we're supposed to do, but what we're supposed to do with a puppy. You want to build the puppy, but you want to build the puppy with proper guidance. You don't want to build it out of control, and you definitely don't want to diminish it by beating the shit out of it. But it's hard because as we get more deep into social media and AI and all that stuff, we're going to leave dogs behind. We're going... I asked someone at a seminar, because this Neuralink thing that Elon Musk is working on. I was talking about when I was in Kittery, this app person came up to me and they wanted to give me a big check. It was a big check. It was high six figures. And I said, what is this for? And they said, well, we're making an app so you can put the electronic collar on your dog and the collar's linked to the phone. So anytime the dog gets more than 8 feet away from you, it will get zapped and come back. And we also have a heart rate monitor on there. We have a blood pressure monitor on there on the collar. We have a GPS on it in case it gets away. I said, well, why does it have a GPS on? Okay, so dog gets away. But if you had the collar on it and it had the phone, it wouldn't go away from you. Now imagine just people like, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Imagine if you forgot to take the collar off and you go to the store and the dog's at home. Uh-oh. So I pointed that out and they said, well, we're going to have to work on that. They said, but will you do it? I said, no, because your motto is we're going to replace dog training. That's not an app for dogs. That's an app for people. So I said no. My wife was furious at me. So I asked people at a seminar a couple years ago, I said, this Neuralink that's coming out, if you could get a puppy and they would implant a chip where you could just control the puppy from your phone, how many people would use it? I don't know, 75% of the people at the seminar put their hands up. And I said, what the fuck is wrong with you people? The fuck is wrong with you? And then we started to talk about it and they started to think about it because they do love the dog, but they don't know how to communicate it. And they're at the seminar because they're fed up with the dog's behavior. So they're not thinking, my God, maybe I should learn how to understand the dog instead of listening to social media and franchises and, your next door neighbor who's had dogs all their life, and try to understand that maybe, just maybe, it's something I did and I need to learn this language. Because if I dropped you off in Mongolia, you're going to have to learn Chinese. And you're going to have to start from the bottom. But if you say, no, I'm just going to ignore it, you're not going to eat. You're not going to survive. You're not going to learn. I mean, you'll learn. You'll learn. When the pain gets great enough, you'll change. So if you're starving, you'll learn. And you're highly motivated to learn. The problem is that when people get puppies, they take that first year. It's precious. And they take that first year and they think about themselves. Then the dog starts to piss them off and they think about themselves. They wanted the dog to be something it could never be. An infant, human, special needs, fashion statement, ego grandchild. Can't be it. So when you go back, the more you learn about dogs, the more you learn how much you fucked up or you were sold a bill of goods. But you have to do the work. It's not my job to do the work for you. It's my job to guide you. Ask the questions. Put yourself aside. Invest. Don't look for results. Look for relationship. How do you find relationship? Through communication. Because I'll tell you, I'm going to say every person I talk to, because if it wasn't this way, they wouldn't talk to me, right? Every person I talk to has a problem with the dog, but they really are looking to not do the work. So I'm going to take you back 36,000 years ago. Fuck, I'll take you back 10,000 years ago. Take you back 500 years ago. Nobody could really have a dog unless it enhanced their life financially, because they couldn't afford to feed it. You're not going to take on another. There were no rescues back then because nobody could afford to rescue dogs. Nobody was, the rich were getting pets. You know what's really funny? If you look at Pekingese, Lhasa Apso, Shih Tzus were bred to be small and hairy, was that in the, I don't know what they call it, the sleeves, the big sleeves of the Chinese emperors, they're like draping wizard sleeves. They were bred to live in people's clothes, in the sleeves of the robes. So that the fleas that were on everybody back then would go on the dog, and the fleas would suck the dog's blood rather than the rich person from China. And then they just keep switching them out. So people are like, oh, it's a companion dog. No, it's a no-pest fly strip that is going to get bit rather than you because its body temperature is higher than yours. So as we forget genetic predisposition or the purpose that this dog was bred for, because remember, they're hardwired for certain things. If you have a Malinois, it has a lot of drive, it wants to work. If you have a terrier, it wants to probably kill shit and get in fights. So you're always trying to work against the genetic predisposition to get the dog to be a balanced dog. But the problem is that sometimes people get puppies not knowing that it's a drivey dog or not knowing that it's a timid dog. And that's an even harder conversation, because I want to give you the information. I want you to learn to invest in your dog, your puppy, the right way. And then when you don't need me, when you're happy, just don't come back. That's all. We don't have to be friends. We don't have to like each other. We just have to understand that you're going to have a problem with this dog. And people go, well, I don't like being talked to directly. Well, let me ask you a question. I think that kind of depends, right? If you're flying down the road, and over here we just had the Ogeechee River just flooded, and there were some people that got caught in it because they ignored the civilians who were like waving their hands on the side of the road like, don't go. And they're like, fuck you. They went right in. They lost their car. They almost lost their lives. Well, no one's going to tell me what to do. Okay. Who is telling you what to do? Did you ask them to tell you what to do? And the old adage is the handler, the owner, gets the dog they deserve. Well, you don't deserve a trained dog if you're not going to train it. You don't deserve a good dog if you're not going to build it. We expect way too much from them, and then we give them way too much, and then expect way too much from them, and we correct them, sedate them. There's dogs that are on constant... I had a dog during COVID. A lady never had a dog before. She was retired, very rich. She saw the dog on the Humane Society calendar and said she wanted to get a dog. So she went down there, and this dog been there for a couple of years. They couldn't... This is on Patreon. They couldn't find someone to take this dog. So she walked in. It's COVID. They said, we're going to match you up with a dog. They gave her this fucking killer dog that's on 40 milligrams of Prozac a day and 400 milligrams of trazodone. Sometimes gabapentin. Why? It's what vets do. It's what behaviorists do. They're going to use surgery and medication. E-collar trainers are going to show you, I'll fix it with an e-collar. Choke collar people are going, I'm going to show you how to fix it with choke. Balanced people will give you a little song and dance about corrections and then reward, but the problem is, in a lot of behavioral things, there should be no reward. The absence of pressure is its own reward. And it shouldn't come from the e-collar, the choke collar, the prong collar, the food. It should all come from you. You are the leader. You are the teacher. The dog is the student. The dog is the child. And it's a message that I try very hard, but people are under a spell when they get a puppy, and then egos and they're lazy. They don't want to change, or they don't want to respect the animal in the way that it should be respected. And so the internet and the industry and social media has created this new message that everything you're doing is right, instead of just understanding that